Hey, thanks so much for tuning in to today's Drawing for Adults class. This class is offered as a partnership between the Ann Arbor District Library and the Ann Arbor Art Center. So I really hope that you enjoy today's class. Today we are going to be drawing birds. So just grab whatever sheet of paper you have, a pencil or charcoal pencil, whatever kind of drawing materials you want to have. That you want to use will be great. I'm going to walk you through a couple different types of birds and how to draw them. So here is one example of one of the birds that we'll be drawing, and what I'm showing you real quick is kind of just some basic shapes that we recognize when we're looking at a bird like this. So obviously I want you to draw as large as you can, but you can see here some really basic shapes right off the bat, right? So this is a triangle. We've got some half circles, other triangles, rectangular kind of looking shapes. It's all very geometric, and when we can break down those basic shapes, it's really, really helpful. So what you just saw me draw as I was tracing over that bird, that's what I'm going to do now. So use some quick little really gestural marks if it helps when figuring out how to get just the base of the bird drawn in. So you can see I'm using several sketchy, quick, gestural kind of lines here as I'm working to get that general shape. So using that triangle as the base here, and then curving out those sides so that it reflects more of what I'm seeing in that bird photograph there on the left. I'm gonna go ahead and grab the talons and the stick that it's on, or the branch. And then I'm just looking at the shapes kind of within. So we have the outline of the bird, and now I'm just looking at the different shapes that I see. Here's the feathers, and then of course just getting in, like slowing down enough. I know this is kind of speeding it a little bit up here, but still I'm doing this process pretty slowly where I'm drawing in each of those individual feathers and really focusing on the lines that I see. Okay. From there, it's a matter of adding our values. So our value is the darkness or lightness of an object or color. So at this point, this is the shading, right? So this is where I'm coming in now to build in the darks, leave the whites, meaning I don't actually color anything on the places that I want to leave white since my paper is white. Now, if you were using a tanned sheet of paper, or something darker, then that might be a different story. You might want to use like white charcoal or a white gel pen or something like that to bring out those white, lighter highlights. But here I'm just looking at the bird, I'm looking at what I'm seeing, I'm identifying, okay, where are the darkest places that I see, and making sure I build those parts in. That's important that we get in those darks, that we don't just leave them to be all kind of midtones. It's really tempting. It's so common to do that where we end up doing the entire drawing and it's just full of midtones. And we don't have nice darks and we don't have nice lights. So what I'm doing here is you can see the way that I had that outline from the very beginning. If I erase that, I'm left with this really nice soft bird, and we don't have an outline. If I look at my photograph, I don't have an actual outline around it. Okay, so here's another quick little sketch if you want something a little bit more fierce. Here's a quick little sketch of an eagle. So it's going to be really similar in terms of my starting process of looking at those basic shapes that I see and kind of building it out from there. The difference that I'm going to be doing with this one here in a second, I will start doing just a kind of a zoomed in version of just the face, so the head shape, and really getting that part drawn in. All right, so that's just the basic shape real quick of the eagle. Now I'm gonna just go in and do some focusing on the head, where I'm looking at a photo reference. By the way, I don't have it on here, but it is in front of me, just on a piece of paper. So what I'm doing though now is I'm looking at the face and the head shape so that I can really go back and get more detail, especially when it's something like an eagle that has a lot of detail just within the feathers, the beak, the curve of the beak, the shape of the head, all of that. And so as I'm doing this larger version, you can see that I'm kind of going back and adding in a little bit more detail on the full drawing of the full body. So that's something that can be helpful to do if you find that you're struggling with maybe the feet or the back wings or some other part of the bird. I would encourage you to take a second to just do a larger study of that specific part. That might even look like you're doing a larger study of the head, a larger study of the talons, of one specific feather, or maybe it's just the beak. So every bird is going to be different. Every bird is going to have its own different set of challenges, and so it's important to figure that out. You can see here I'm also kind of showing you want to create really wispy lines for those feathers. You don't want to do short choppy lines. They want to be very wispy, and so as I'm adding those in, that's something else that you can kind of practice off to the side of getting that kind of wispy mark, okay? So I'm gonna just keep adding some more details, so feel free to follow along or pause this video at any point to get caught up. So just as before with that other bird, I want to add my shading. And so I'm looking again at my photo. Now this part of the bird is white. So adding in shadows for a white part does sometimes seem a little bit backwards because, well, if my paper's white and so is the bird, then shouldn't I just leave it white? But the answer would be no, because it's not ever really, well, sometimes it might be really, really bright white, but most of the time it's not. And so especially even just the little texture underneath the feathers to really show that there is some texture, there is dimension, there's depth to those feathers. They're not just, you know, little lines drawn onto a flat two-dimensional space. It's a 3D form with texture, and so it's important that I do get all of that shading in. Of course, paying attention to the darker parts of an eagle. So here I'm adding in the darker parts because that's a darker brown color versus the white. And as long as I pay attention to value and I don't go too dark in those white areas, then it will be just fine to add shading there. Okay, so what I want you to do is think about maybe a winter bird or something like that today, or maybe if you have a different favorite bird, you could do something kind of like this, so that's kind of good, you know, good for the season, but you don't have to do this bird. Find a good reference photo for you that you like to do. You could also think about doing this in colored pencils. It's a very similar approach, of course, in terms of just sketching it out. Just instead of doing shading with your charcoal or your pencil, you would be doing this with colored pencil. So this is one that I did, and here are a couple of others that I've drawn in the past. And so I do like doing it with colored pencils. I think that birds are really fun to draw. There's so much color and detail and texture, and so doing something or using something that has a really nice fine point is really great. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I hope you tune in again soon.